Okay, now that we've seen adding and subtracting on the number line, what to do with two signs side by side, and what to do when multiplying and dividing positives and negative numbers, we can now learn the rule Bedmas. Bedmas. Some people call it the order of operations. Some people think it is a preference of operations. Okay, playing around here. So, brackets first. B. Some people use P, like in French for parentheses or something. Brackets first. E. Exponents. Exponents second. So, read the full English instructions of the order in the notes. Now, we're at division and multiplication. I'm going to put a little squiggly thing around division and multiplication. And we do that in order from left to right. Read that out in the notes. In order from left to right. Write it down so you don't forget. In order from left to right. Division and multiplication in order from left to right. And then adding and subtracting. Again, in order from left to right. Now, before I continue, later in chapter 10, we learn on working on equations, treating it like an equal scale on both sides, doing the same thing to both sides, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. And we usually work with Bedmas backwards, but not all the time. That's why it's a preference. We want to get you start thinking that there are certain laws in math that you cannot break, and you can do anything else that you want to do. You just can't break them. And if you figure out something new that isn't a law, then you get a Nobel Prize. So outside of that, Bedmas. Brackets, exponents, division and multiplication in order from left to right, and adding and subtracting in order from left to right. So something nice and simple. 3 times 4 plus 2 equals. So what's first? I have multiplication and addition. What do I do first? Well, multiplication is before addition in Bedmas. So I do the multiplication first, and I go down the page. 3 times 4 is 12. What haven't I worked on? Sometimes I'll circle the part of the question that I worked on. Sometimes I'll write the part of the question that I'm working on off to the right. Figure out what it is and bring it back to the question. Then I'm going to do what's called carry everything else down. Carry everything else down that you have not touched yet. So the thing I haven't touched yet was the 2. So why go down the page? Well, because if I wrote 12 plus 2 off to the right, if we have multiple steps, it's much more difficult. And you have to start zoning your eye back left and right when it's much easier to do it right on top of each other. Go to the right if you want to, or if it's the last step, absolutely go to the right. No need wasting more page down below. Nothing else to think about. 12 plus 2 equals 14. Circle my answer. Check my answer on the calculator. 3 times 4 plus 2 equals 14. Calculators understand Bedmas to some extent, but some really don't understand how their brackets work. So you're going to get all sorts of calculators without display, backwards calculators, calculators with display, a little bit simpler to use, and then graphing calculators, which you're going to get later unless you're lucky. Okay, so multiply first, add second, multiply is first in Bedmas, addition is second. Okay, 10 minus 4 divided by 2. Well, some people, first, division is to the left, so I'm going to do the division first. Now you may be thinking, is it negative 4 divided by 2 or is it 4 divided by 2? It does not matter. So I'm going to take the easy part, 4 divided by 2. I'm not going to write it off to the right this time, but if that calculation is difficult for you, 4 divided by 2 is 2. What haven't I worked on? Well, I did 4 divided by 2, so I'm going to circle 4 divided by 2. Now, I haven't done 10 minus. But for example, if you did negative 4 divided by 2, the answer would still be negative 2, but then you would circle the negative 4 divided by 2, and then only the 10 would carry down and be the same anyways. 10 minus 2 is 8. Circle my answer. Type it in the calculator. 10 minus 4 divided by 2 equals 8. Why does Bedmas matter? Well, because if I did 10 minus 4 first, it would be 6. And then if I divided it by 2, it would be 3. And that's not what we want. Someone might want 3, and then they might do different things to make sure that you calculate the 10 minus 4 first. Well, how could we calculate the 10 minus 4 first? Well, we would need the first step of Bedmas, brackets around it. We're going to see that a little bit later. So now let's take a look at 2 cubed plus 4. Now 2 cubed is a little bit more difficult. You may not have seen exponents yet. You may have. But 2 cubed, what does that mean? It does not mean 2 times 3. We never multiply the base by the exponent, which we're going to see more in chapter 9. But 2 cubed equals 2. I'm going to use the dot for times because it's lazier. 2 dot 2 dot 2 equals 8. Again, do your stuff off to the right and then bring it back into the question. Don't write 2 times 2 times 2 plus 4 in the question. Eventually, we don't need to do the stuff off to the right. And having the stuff off to the right is a nice, easy look at for the stuff that we need to work on. 2 cubed is 8 plus 4. 8 plus 4 is equal to 12. Circle my answer. Type in the calculator. 2 cubed plus 4 equals 12. Good. Okay. So 2 open bracket 3 plus 4 close bracket squared equals. So what's the first letter in Bedmas? Bracket. So I have to do those brackets first. I'm going to circle what the brackets say so I can focus on the brackets. 3 plus 4 is 7. So I'm going to put a 7 below. Notice I use 7s like that. A 7 with a slash through it, so they don't look like 1s or 9s or 4s. So now I'm going to carry everything else down. Well, the brackets are still necessary, so I'm going to put brackets around the 7. I'm going to put a 2 in front, and then I'm going to put a 2 as the exponent. So B, brackets, first. Well, now I have a 2 and a 7 with an exponent of 2. So what do I do first? Well, it's 2 times 7 to the exponent of 2, written off to the right without brackets. Now, Bedmas says to do exponents first. We have to do the exponents first. 7 squared is simply 7 times 7, which is 49. And I'm going to bring it back into the question. 7 squared is 49. Brackets around it. Put a 2 in front. Now 2 open bracket 49. 2 open bracket 49 means 2 times 49. Now that may seem simple, and you might do that or see that in class once and just go, oh, it just means that. Well, I like to write it off to the right so it's in my notes. 2 times 49, let's go off to the right, equals 98. Circle my answer. Now, 2 open bracket 3 plus 4 close bracket squared on this calculator does not give 98. On display calculators and graphing calculators it does. So be very careful to make sure that your calculator understands what brackets do and why. And make sure that you have a calculator that you understand and work well with. So the answer is 98. And then now let's see one more at the bottom. So we have 2 minus 3 plus 4. So we have 2 minus 3 plus 4. Well, Bedmas tells us to do subtraction last. But we need to remember that Bedmas is in the order from left to right with addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. So we're working with multiplication and division, addition and subtraction here. So we have to go from left to right. 2 minus 3. What's 2 minus 3? Again, we're going to be using the number line. So 2, starting at 2, going to the left 3 is negative 1. I did the 2 minus 3. I haven't done the plus 4 for next. Now I'm at negative 1 on the number line. I'm going to go 4 to the right. 4 to the right of negative 1 is equal to 3. Circle our answer. Type into the calculator. 2 minus 3 plus 4 equals 3. Understands Bedmas most of the time. Again, Bedmas, a preference. Laws, Bedmas. Yes, you have to use Bedmas. That is a law. But in all sorts of cases, you can manipulate and work around it so you're not breaking any of the laws, but you're not actually going in that order. And again, when we get to equations, we're going to be reversing that process completely, but throwing you all sorts of idiosyncrasies. Okay, so that's adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, and Bedmas.